Welcome into another episode of Preacher in the Hat. My name is Eric. Across from me, my brother Derek, who happens to be wearing the exact same hat as
Why not?
me. To my right, our dad Steve, and behind the cameras, as always, on a hot mic, Mr. Chris Sumter. I wasn't sure if he was going to yell or not this time.
Sir! Yes, sir!
He pump faked us.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good, Chris. I like that pump fake.
Go to the
I like
screen.
that pump fake. I like that. That was good.
I hated it.
We're going to be talking a little bit about money today in various forms and fashions. So I have a question for you and for all of you and for the audience as we get started. And I want to know what's the most frustrating thing that you have spent money on in like the past, whatever. Keep it recent. Let's say year, whatever.
Federal taxes.
No. Everybody has to do that. Everybody has to do that. What's the most frustrating thing you spent money on that not everybody
answer,
has to?
Chris.
So not like
State taxes.
So,
Dadgummit. Get off that.
Well, that's quite a question. I don't know.
or an upcoming expense that, you don't want to spend money
I spent way too much money. I think probably a little over a year ago, the AC went out on my truck. Got that nice and replaced. It was,
$4,000.
yeah, felt, but it was working great. And then the engine about a year later went paperweight.
Oh boy.
That's
Yeah, that
bad.
would
Yeah,
be frustrating.
that's bad.
That happened to
was
me with a car
frustrating.
too, not with the air conditioning, but I bought a car and I thought I had an older Honda CRV and then I took it in one day and they said, Mr. Longenecker, this is going to take about $4,000 to.
See, mine was still going strong and had a lot of resale value that I couldn't get out of it anymore. Okay. That was probably the most frustrating part is that I sold it before I had to do like a whole bunch of the money. Obviously, I still spent on the AC, but lost quite a bit of resale.
This isn't necessarily frustrating. I'm actually looking forward to it, hopefully, if it works out. So we've got some trees on our property that we've been trying to get rid of. And I do have somebody coming out for an estimate tomorrow. I cannot stand pine trees. Inexplicably, our neighbor across the street planted 7 pine trees in their front yard.
Wow.
They will regret that.
Feels like they will regret that. Yeah. But I can't.
Ornamental pine trees.
Ornamental. What is it? What?
Is there a
Doesn't
difference?
exist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. But I can't wait to get rid of those. The only problem is we have a couple that are like really close to our deck and fenced in our backyard and blocked by this really big tree. So I'm thinking the estimate I'm going to get for that is really, really dumb, but we'll see. Hopefully it won't.
I've paid for a lot of trees around this house too. I understand. On the one hand, you do like it, but on the other hand, it's like, ugh.
No, the pine straw and the sap is just
Especially on your
absolutely
deck, I guess,
unnecessary
huh?
on the deck.
Wow.
And then we have one by the driveway that assaults our cars.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Get rid of them for sure.
That's the plan. Chris, do you have a tree guy?
He probably does have a
Yeah,
tree
I
guy.
got one. It's not a frustrating expense, but Mosquito Joe's. You have one of these people that spray for mosquitoes, and you're like, but does it work really? Like, are you spraying water out there? Like, am I being stupid right now? Yeah. Probably so. I'm not like picking on Mosquito
And yet
Joe's.
you still pay him every year.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely. I'll tell you another one, mini storage.
Oh, that's a good one.
Even though you own a mini storage.
No, seriously, if you think about it, I got a buddy that says he's got one in Hoover. He says, Chris, I haven't been up there in like 4 years.
They probably sold his unit.
I pay him like $100. No, he pays it every month
pays it?
because it's just, it's like going to the gym. You just
Yeah.
ACH or ACH, whatever it is, but debit your account. And, my wife I had one for like probably about a year and a half. And I was like, what is up in that place? I think it was like maybe $408 of worth of stuff. I said, done. I mean, they just have it and they just keep having it.
Yeah.
And there's like, just throwing money out the window.
Yeah, for sure.
That is a good
Epidemic of stuff.
That's another podcast.
Yeah.
Stuff-ademic. Nah,
Nah. Reach.
What do you say? Stuff-ademic?
A stuff-ademic. Yeah, that's bad.
Stuff-ademic. I like that.
It didn't,
That's
it
good.
didn't roll off the tongue.
I don't know.
that's
Dad
good.
likes it.
Dude, I like it.
In your mind, it always rolls off the tongue, right? And then you start saying,
If the
Stuff-ademic.
preacher likes it, I love it.
Oh, no, I think it's great. I will plan to use it in the future. I've seen it everywhere. Yeah. Even guys in prison have stuff-ademic sometimes.
Let's
Stuff they keep
not make
around
this
the
a thing.
Don't feed into it, in other
Yeah.
words. So we're talking about a man and his money, huh? Let's do that. A man and his work, we talked about in the past. A man and his family, a man and his faith. We've mentioned over the last few episodes, all of those. And then tonight we'll do a man and his money. I guess it kind of spurred on a little bit, wasn't it? Because we heard from our money man at church on Sunday talk to us some about money. And that kind of sparked me to think, yeah, this is a subject that's pretty important to men, no matter what age they are. But here we go.
A man and his maters.
A man and his maters. Yeah, I see you're over there doing that.
no one can see you doing that. There's not a
Yeah,
camera.
now we have to give context.
He's eating a cup of tomatoes. Great. That arguably is just even more confusing.
So tell me about money. What are we going to talk about?
Well, I think we heard recently, and I heard it before, that in the Bible that Jesus talks more about money than does almost anything else as far as another topic. It sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? Since he wasn't controlled by it, he controls it, but he's not controlled by it, but he talked a lot about it. Must be a pretty important topic, in other words. You think, Chris?
Must be.
If he mentions it, and the Bible's full of references related to money, how to handle money, and all that kind of stuff. So it's worthy of us talking about it in terms of how it applies to our life and just life in general. So who'd you learn about money from first? And what lessons did we learn first? Let's talk about that for a minute. What are some of the lessons we learned, or what do we learn about money first? What do we learn from our peers, from kids our age, people older than us? What do we learn about money, and what are some of the lessons, maybe even hard-earned lessons in money? I'll start off with when I started working. I was 13 years old and made $1 an hour with watermelons, and I loved it because that gave me some spending money. Eric, last time you talked about that, about when you had a job first. We were talking about a man and his work last episode, I think. And you said something about it was kind of cool at that age to kind of get some money because I kind of loved being able to, even at $1 an hour when you're 13 back then, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool for me anyhow, a little country town. So I learned that making money was a rewarding thing. I enjoyed it. It was good. Obviously didn't get rich, but those are some of the things I thought about it. I don't know that I learned a lot of lessons about money from my peers back then. I don't know if there was a lot of talk about it, but watching my parents, who didn't have a lot of money, watching how they handled it, I'll tell you one thing that really, really stood out to me. It was a negative experience overall, not because the people involved were negative. Was one time we were scheduled to go to the beach with another family. We were going to drive in a car with them, and they only had the only thing we had to do was pay gas money. And back then, to go to the beach, which was 2 hours away, we would go down in the morning and come back in the evening. But my dad had to come and stand in front of us. I'll never forget where he was. He stood in front of us as a family, and he was sad. He was really sad. He said, "Kids, I'm so sorry. We can't go to the beach tomorrow because I don't have enough money to pay for gas, our part of the gas." You know how much it was, Chris? $10. And he didn't have $10 for us to do that. Now, you want to talk about impacting a kid. in terms of, it's hard to explain how that was. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to explain what that did to us. I can still envision it, you know.
I'm thinking
58
I'm
years.
thinking about him standing there
58 years later. I mean,
how he had to say that to you.
I know. He had to say it to four of us kids, and to his wife. Of course, his wife, my mom, knew about it. He was so sad about it, but you can imagine what we were. I think maybe I must have been under 12, probably. I was the oldest of four. But what did I learn about money in that moment? You know, that lack of money just brings great sadness, you know, and that kind of thing. I still don't quite understand, but it was not something you would have done back in those days. I think probably I'd have gone somewhere and got $10, you know what I'm saying, from somebody and say, I owe you. But that is not how my parents operated. Now, they took care of us. You know, we weren't poor that we didn't eat or went hungry or anything like that. But and even as I tell the story now, I feel sadness about it. So in some ways, sometimes money, what I learned early is money, and particularly the lack of it, could really create a lot of sadness in you. And you know, it was profound in that moment to watch my dad not feel like he could make it. He was a hard worker. He was not a matter he didn't work. He worked and worked and worked, and my mom did too, and still not to have money, $10 to go to the beach. For all six of us to load up in a car with somebody.
You probably didn't get the backstory on why that it was, because I
probably didn't.
They were planning on something might have happened, you know. Probably
didn't. I don't know what it was, but so money can bring, or lack thereof, can bring a lot of lessons that sometimes stick with you later in life. When people grow up poor, sometimes that impacts them a lot in terms of money. Money's something that was not readily available.
Thank you for that, brother.
I think I really got us off to a roaring start here, didn't I? But I watched my dad with great sadness that in that moment with his a man and his money, he wasn't able to deliver. And I know it really hurt him badly. And it hurt us too, but we weren't angry at him. Nobody was angry at him. But we were just like sad.
I think one of the times that when I've learned the most about money, honestly, wasn't even until after I was married. So, and this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Even I happen upon hobbies or whatever you want to call it throughout my life, and then we'll just like dive heavily into them. And personal finance became a hobby for me sometime around COVID or a little after COVID, something like that. And so the most interesting thing for me was like going from my natural state, which would be get the money I need or want and do what I want. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like my natural position with money. And now I have always saved a little bit of money, like saved some money. So it's never just been like blow it all. Like that's never been my philosophy. But never really concerned with like am I growing what I have? Like that sort of thing. Didn't really care about that. So dove into personal finance and then all of a sudden started caring a lot about that. Saved a lot of money. And then now just like it's kind of like rebalanced as of like a year ago or so. We redid our kitchen, and like up to that point, which is obviously expensive, and like up to that point we had just like really been watching our savings grow like crazy. And then, of course, just took out just like absolutely wrecked it with a sledgehammer, to redo the kitchen. And that kind of like took my focus off of it for a while, because it was almost like we wanted to redo the kitchen. I was not upset about that at all. Was very happy to do it, but like it kind of like wrecked my progress in my mind. But then like ever since then, you know, getting back to, you know, adding some money back in and, you know, that sort of thing, and just trying to like rebalance to where I'm not so much just like counting up the dollars as they stack in savings, because I don't really want to go back to that. And we saved a lot of money, which is great, but that wasn't like, I don't know, that's just not the way that I necessarily want to live. And so like balancing responsibility, monetary responsibility, and being, slightly not carefree, because that sounds like you're just blowing it, but like, I don't know. So I'm trying to get to like this point where I feel good about the kind of doing something in the middle and not scrutinizing every single transaction, but also still paying attention to it.
Kind of the tension is the kind of tension between enjoying spending and enjoying savings and enjoying, and how do you enjoy both?
It's not so much like enjoying it. Like, I just don't want to be like, I don't want to get to a point where I'm mad that
you don't have
that we had to take some out.
Yeah, I got you.
For whatever it is, for XYZ.
That's right.
And so like one of the reasons like I kind of pulled back, like after we got the kitchen done, then Michaela was pregnant pretty soon after that. And it was like, I don't want to be upset about hospital bills for my son being born when I know we can pay them.
Yeah, right.
Because I should be like, there are lots of people all over the place who have to pay way more money, you know, just even to try to have kids. You know, it's like, and so I don't want to be all grumpy because I have to pay some stuff that I don't want to pay, when I would pay it 10 times over for my son to be born.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like kind of trying to balance some of that. And that's to where I kind of stopped looking at or trying to just count what's, you know, how much money's in savings and that sort of thing. And yeah, it felt a little bit better, that approach did, but I don't want to completely let go of like fiscal responsibility at the same time.
One of the things I think I've kind of picked up on, if you're fortunate enough to be in a situation that our family has been in, that the next generation is a little bit more well off than the previous one. Like, so I know our grandfather grew up, you said y'all weren't dirt poor. He probably grew up dirt poor, and he made life, you know, a little easier for y'all growing up than what he had it.
He did.
And I know Dad has made life easier for us financially than what he had it growing up. And then I know that I have made, and to this point, you know, don't know the future, but to this point I've made it easier financially for my son than what now when I say easier, we're getting into like, because I don't ever remember like thinking about financial struggle. I know there were times when y'all had more and times when y'all had less, and there were a couple years growing up when like the big ticket Christmas item that everybody wanted, we kind of like knew we wouldn't be able to get, but I don't ever remember being like dissatisfied with Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
It was like, nothing, it wasn't that nothing came in.
Yeah. So
Christmas.
exactly. Yeah. So we had like, you had little moments of that where you realize like, okay, we don't have as much money as everybody else, but it's kind of interesting in those types of scenarios, the lessons that you learn or the things that you need to know about money are different than maybe even what your parents could teach you.
That's right. That's
you know what I'm saying? So I one of the things that I've thought about, growing up with now with my kids is thinking, how do I teach them about this stuff when they ask me for it and I can get it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not, and I'm not talking about, they ask me, I'm not talking about, Dad, can I have a car? And I'm like, sure. And I'm saying like, from an everyday perspective, or like the toys, they're real little. So like the toys that they want, or like I could get that, like point to it on the shelf and I could buy that for you. How do you teach the lesson that you didn't have because for me, I could we rode through the cart on the store. We probably still asked Mom for stuff. Mm-hmm. I know we did. But we knew, I knew, I won't even ask for that.
Yeah, right.
I'm not even going to ask for that. You see the sticker. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is.
There's you don't always get to apply the things, your experiences now to I don't get to necessarily apply my experience to my kid. Like I have to try to almost recreate it.
I have to, yeah.
Or
I would say there's times like that where, a lot of times you're just saying, I will say no, not because it's kind of like what you're saying, not because I can't, but because we just won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was some of that. We had some of that growing up. There were times when we asked for stuff, they could have bought it and they didn't.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, it's on. You're almost just like,
you have to be careful to not fall into the pattern of being of looking at my wife and be like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's not a problem. Like money wise,
because you just think about it from a financial statement standpoint, where you're like, oh yeah, we can,
and
get
it's way more than that.
Yeah, we can get that.
You have to, we have to be careful to not fall into. And I'm not saying we haven't. We do. Michaela does a really good job helping me keep that kind of stuff in check too.
Catherine is the same. Yeah, she thinks more about the other side of that, where I could see a balance, see what it costs. I'm
we're good.
We got that.
I'm the same way.
I wonder if Derek, you made an interesting point, but how from generation to generation. So let's go to the principles maybe that I had mentioned to y'all that we might use, and I think that Doug at Grace and Truth Church on Sunday talked about. One thing we can teach our kids, no matter how much money is there, we can teach them gratitude. Mm-hmm. Gratitude. One thing I notice is that sometimes the more somebody has, the less grateful they seem to be. So if we teach them gratitude, no matter what level that we do have, no matter what level the bank account, but we say whatever the level of the bank account, be grateful for what you have. In other words, you don't want a good bank account to create in a child or even in an adult a lack of gratefulness, like, oh, well, we got this, and so they forget to be grateful as far as that's concerned. Yeah. So the second principle then is generosity. So teach them to be generous, not just to think about how it applies to them, but how they can then give and help with others. So I think that's something go from generation to generation, even though the bank account numbers change, Derek. Those the bank account of gratitude and the bank account of generosity can be taught no matter what. And so what does it mean for your kids to be generous? What did it mean for you to be generous? What did it mean for me to be generous? Each of us have to come to that. As a man and his money, we have to say, what am I grateful for? One thing I like, Chris, let's see how you like this. I've thought about it. If I'm not grateful for what I do have, I won't be grateful for what I'm about to get. How about that? You like that? Stand and cheer or whatever? Are you standing up?
Say that slow. Say that slow.
We got it.
If I'm not grateful... Chris,
I'm listening.
For what I do have, I'm probably not going to be grateful for what I'm about to have.
Well, that's a good word.
You like that?
That's a good word. I like that.
I've seen that in myself.
Yeah, me too.
If I'm not grateful here, I won't be grateful there.
Yeah, and you think when it comes to thankfulness, and we're all guilty of it, but if I just if you just get me there,
just give me there, and then I'll be grateful.
That's right. It's all going to be good.
So if we teach, no matter what the bank account is, gratitude, then from generation to generation, people learn to be, I think, good stewards of their money if they have gratitude. Generosity is the same way. The generosity is the same way. And I think the third one that we talked about is presence. And what I mean is
gifts.
Yeah, that's right.
Bingo.
That's what.
Not presents.
That's bingo.
Oh, okay.
Presents.
That spelling matters, bro.
Real close.
It really does.
I'm speaking of
Careful where you put that comma.
PRESENCE. Yeah. Here's
Slow
one thing I
choke.
didn't like.
That play.
It never hardly ever happened in our family, but think about this. Have you been in here when kids get a gift? Sometimes I've been in some Christmas gatherings where kids got a gift, and all of a sudden they were not concerned about the person who gave them the gift. The only thing they're focused on is the gift. And so presence means I understand the presence of the human being who gave me that. Because the same principle applies to God. If I become enamored with the created being, with what he has given me, but not enamored with him, I get off track.
Now, I will say, obviously, that is an important point and would want everybody to know. If you have young kids, that is something that you have to teach.
That's correct.
We're not born with that.
That's correct.
So, if you're hearing that and you're going, oh man, my kids focus on the gift.
Yeah.
So do mine.
That's
so
mine too.
and they get taught.
So did we.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did we. Yeah. And they get.
That's an extra interesting. Good point.
They get taught
right.
to be grateful to the person.
So how do you do that? How do you teach them? When you see them do that, how do you correct them? What's a way you would correct them in that moment? Or would you not do it in the moment, but later?
I try to spend as much time on that as I can ahead of time, because I'm probably not going to react very well in the moment.
Gotcha.
If I see it egregiously. Now, so it's a little, with our kids, they're absolutely swamped with presents when they have. We have
hell.
Yeah, we have great families, both me and my wife, and everybody shows up for birthday parties. And so they get swamped, and so now I'm not expecting them to at 5 and 3 years old, and of course we have a newborn, but like at 5 and 3 years old, I'm not expecting them to just like sit there gently and quietly and focus on, and it's like, and I'll just stay locked eyes with the person who gave them the gift. It's like they're getting stuff flooded with, like they're just absolutely overwhelmed. But if I see something egregious in the moment, that would be pretty frustrating for me. So usually we talk ahead of time about receiving gifts, in making sure that they know that someone worked hard to give you this, and you could, and if you open it and you have no clue what it is, you have absolutely no clue. You're still going to say thank you for it. And, so like, as far as I have not had to discipline after the fact for any of that yet with my kids.
That's great.
So
because you prepare them for it.
I don't. Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's why. I hope not. It's not just because it's coming down the track later. But because I don't know exactly how I would go about that. But that one is something that would be pretty serious to me.
Well, it's serious because it's reflective, Eric, I think, of how adults do with God. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, oh, thank you, God, for that. Thank you, God, for this. Thank you, God, for this. Chris, one time I remember I sang the song, and you got up and talked one time, and you said about, I sang the song, Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I like what you said about that later on. You said, sometimes I'm not sure if that's the first thing that comes to my mind, or is what Jesus gave me the best thing that ever happened to me, or as opposed to Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me. So I think the reason it's so egregious to us is we realize that as adults, we see adults doing it all the time. It's like, I'm grateful for what you gave me, but I'm not grateful to you as a person for your presence right here, for you being right here. And so I'm not abiding in the relationship, I'm abiding in the gift. I'm all excited about the gift, So
it's hard to separate those two.
It really is a lot of times.
It's almost impossible.
It feels like it is, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But I think we can be grateful for the gift. I don't think it's important for us to be thankful for the gift. There's no question. But but if we forget the person behind the gift, and I like what you said, Eric, the person that sacrificed to give it, the person who wanted to do that. So I think gratitude, generosity, that is being willing to give just as much as I receive. So there's the spiritual discipline of receiving, but there's a spiritual discipline of giving too. And if there's a good balance on that, of learning how to receive and give, and then we'll be okay. It's when we get wacky on one. I'm going to receive the gift but not give it, or I'm just going to give a gift but not really receive it graciously. Right. So yeah, gratitude, generosity, and presence are pretty important for a man and his money, for a woman and her money, for a child and their money. And I think that's something we can teach across generations, like you suggested, Derek. We can teach those principles. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it, we don't have to think about, does my child have more than I had? We can think about, is my child grateful? Is my child generous? Is my child understanding the people who are the givers of the gifts, whatever the gifts are? So are they grateful for the house they live in or no? Are they thankful for the car they get to ride in or no?
That's our kids love our.
I was gonna say the vehicles thing, no problem, man. Yeah, they'll get into it. Yeah,
they're good with that.
Yes, our house too. Several times my 5-year-old has made me promise that we'll never move.
Oh, is that right? Interesting.
Oh, wow. I don't know, buddy. Yeah,
he sounds like his daddy. Actually, he actually sounds like his daddy, because you had a dad and mom that moved around quite a bit, and
we would have reason to ask you to please stop.
Yes.
No.
Shauna, when she was 7 years old, we moved from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham. On the way over in the car, she looked at me, she said, "Now, Dad, this is the last time we're going to move."
Spoiler alert, he was just getting started.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Shauna. Good luck with that. But it was the last time we moved to another town. How about that?
Yeah.
By that time, she was on her third town.
Then they just went to different parts of the town.
Parts of the town.
Yeah.
I sense a little bit of
you
lack
might be
of
losing
gratitude.
this fight. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's right. I think so. Yeah. Chris, what do you think? Gratitude, generosity, and presence. You got any comments about that as we come to an end here?
In the words of the great theologian Spike Lee, mo money, mo problems.
Mo money, mo problems.
No, it's about attitude, I think, really, because I've known really godly people that, like you, Eric, they had an attention to that detail. I have friends that he helps me in work my portfolio. He's incredible, but they don't buy a piece of chewing gum if it don't end up on a spreadsheet.
Oh, really?
And they love to give too, but they're like boom, boom, boom. I'm like, God, that gives me a headache. I can't even locate.
Yeah.
And then I've known people that live by faith. It's crazy. They don't.
Right.
We have some friends in Texas, and they're like, we just trust God.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've seen it both work. That one would drive me nuts, but the other would drive me. I'd like to be somewhere in the middle if I can be.
Yeah.
One thing I thought about, I wonder if it wouldn't be good sometimes we use the word spending when in fact it's investing. Yeah. Now, I don't think that's just a play on words sometimes. I actually think there are some things that feel like spending to me, and then there's other things that feel like investing. And I think when I'm taking care of the kids and the family and friends and church folks and all that kind of stuff, I think I'm investing. I'm investing in them. I'm investing in our relationship, investing in those things. Sometimes it's just helpful for me as one man with a little bit of money, it's helpful for me to think through some of this. And so I don't feel like I'm spending, like frivolously spending, because sometimes the word, well, you're a big spender and all that kind of thing. I prefer to be known as a big investor.
Yeah.
But I would like to invest money in people eventually. That is with people, not in things.
Yeah. So investing in a nice lasagna, Chris.
or shrimp carbonara.
Yeah.
Or a really nice pellet grill, maybe. A really nice pellet grill. And so, Well, gentlemen, I have enjoyed having this discussion.
I just phased out.
I know his mind went straight to lasagna.
He went to lasagna. So you're done?
I was like bathing in fettuccine.
We're done. So if Derek brings us a lasagna next week,
Nah.
No.
You know,
that
if he
will
brings us a lasagna, would that be spending or investing?
Well, that's
Chris?
investing.
It's investing.
that might be investing. It'll also be insufferable.
Well, gentlemen, I've enjoyed you. Thank you very much. And so for Eric Longenecker on my left, and for Derek Longenecker on my right, and for Chris Sumter behind the cameras and the microphone over there, I'm Steve Longenecker. Preacher in the Hat has come to you by way of preacherinthehat.com. So check us out.
See ya. See you next time.
God bless.